Welcome to episode 75 of the Family Answer Man podcast. Today, where we explore depression during the holidays from a biblical worldview on the Family Answer Man podcast. I'm your host, David Orges, and I'm here with Dr. Mark Crosby, pastor, educator, and marriage and family therapist, and the resident expert here on the Family Answer Man podcast, where we tackle tough questions that families face and discuss practical solutions that really do work. Now, this podcast is not a therapy session. We're not able to give specific advice to your situations. But we do believe that mental and spiritual health are very serious issues and that family dynamics can be and often are very complicated. So for in-depth answers to your questions, we encourage you to seek professional counsel specific to your unique circumstances. Now, if you would, take a second right now to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode of the Family Answer Man. And if you're listening via podcast, take a moment to follow us, to rate and review us on your favorite podcast app. That really does help us out, and we appreciate it a lot. And if our content has helped you at all, please share the Family Answer Man with your family and your friends so they can join you on this journey of building stronger, healthier, happier families. Well, Dr. Mark, big topic for today.
Yes.
Depression during the holidays.
Yes.
And I love, we got some facts, we've got some myths, and we've got some things that people might be able to do.
Right. Yeah, and this is something we deal with every holiday season, every Christmas season. And there are people who love the holidays, of course, and most of our listening audience, I would say, loves the holidays, and we love to prepare. We love the Christmas cantatas, and we love the Christmas messages and the sermons and the celebration of the birth of Jesus and all that goes with the Christmas season. But there are those who really dread this time of year. Some are, again, good, well-meaning people, but maybe they're going through a very difficult time. Maybe they're the ones who have lost a job. Maybe the company's downsizing. Maybe they're the ones who unfortunately lost a family member this year. And now they are approaching the holidays and that loved one is not there. And so with that being said, there is some real concerns for a lot of people during the holidays. Their emotional state, their mental state is often negatively impacted because of some of these reasons. Maybe that son or daughter that normally comes in, for the Christmas holidays is going off maybe with their future, husband or wife, or maybe there's other parts of the family that they're going to be spending time with and not necessarily with mom or dad. Unfortunately, too, a little sidebar, many divorce attorneys will tell you, many family therapists will tell you that between December the 15th and January the 15th, is perhaps the worst time for, again, most couples as they're filing for divorce, thinking about divorce, making plans for divorce and separation because of the stress that so many are dealing with during this time of year and all the problems that they have had over the last several weeks, months, or even years, is now coming into this moment. And many are saying, as soon as Christmas is over, I'm filing for divorce. Wow. As soon as this is over, I'm leaving. Or as soon as this is done, we're separating. And so this is a very unique time of year. It's the end of the year, of course, but it's also the Christmas holiday. And because of that, the emotional and mental state of a lot of people is just overwhelming right now. It's just being overwhelmed. Yeah.
Well, that is a great segue into our question, because the question that came in today it was sent in familyanswerman@liveoak.church. So if you have a question you would like for us to answer, again, that's familyanswerman@liveoak.church. That's our email address, and we love hearing from y'all and getting your questions. And the question is depression more prevalent during the holidays? And if so, how can one minimize depression during the holidays?
I won't argue that it is. There are some people that want to say, no, depression's always around. It's just highlighted during the holidays. But there's some research that indicates that 64% of people with mental illness, and that would be defined as depression or bipolar disorder or anxiety disorder, et cetera, 64% with a mental illness basically have declared that the holidays make things worse for them.
Wow, that's a really big number.
64%. Yeah. Say the holidays make things worse. And the reason for that is, number one, for a lot of people, the expectations are just overwhelmingly great. The expectations are too high.
Yeah.
They expect to, buy the perfect gift or have the perfect house or, decorate, the perfect yard or have the perfect tree or, have, the perfect party or whatever it may be. And what happens is that these expectations become so great, and they put these expectations on themselves or on their spouse or whomever, And when those expectations are not fulfilled, then they feel like it's a failure. We failed at getting the right gift. We failed at getting, my spouse what she wanted or what he wanted. Or we failed at, getting the kids what they wanted or whatever it may be. And so when these expectations are not met, one feels like a failure. So there's this great, anxious, moment. Did I get enough? Did I buy enough? Did I do enough? Do we have enough? And so when these expectations are that high, the reality is you're going to fail somewhere.
Right. No one's going to be perfect in every area.
You're not going to have the perfect meal, the perfect gift, the perfect, Christmas, decoration or whatever it may be. And so when you put the expectations that high, and once you start feeling like a failure, the depression starts kicking in. And I'll argue that one of the factors of depression is when the expectations are so high that they just are almost impossible to meet.
So impossible expectations.
Yeah, impossible expectations. Number two, very similar to number one, is the demands are great. In other words, people are maybe calling on you. We want you to come to this. We want you to go to that. We have the office party. We have the cantata. We have the Christmas Eve service. We have the, grandma has her, particular event that she wants for, her grandkids, whatever it may be. And so when the demands are so great, sometimes you cannot meet all the demands.
Yeah.
And you find yourself, going here and going there and going here and going there, and you just can't do it all, but you feel like you have to.
That's the classic hustle and bustle, right?
Exactly. And so when you can't meet the expectations or when you can't meet the demands, which is very similar, then again, you start feeling like maybe I failed, maybe I didn't do enough, maybe the problem's with me. Also, too, during the holidays, the emotions are very real. They're very there's some happy emotions during the holidays. We look forward to seeing our family. In many cases, we were happy about getting gifts for people. We are happy about unwrapping the gifts Christmas morning. We're happy about going to see grandma or whatever it may be. There's so many happy emotions, but there are also so many sad emotions. Again, as we mentioned earlier, there is sometimes grief that reoccurs as you miss that loved one. And then there's the age-old question when you're dealing with the grief, do we talk about our loved one? And some are saying, well, don't talk about grandpa because that upsets grandma. Or don't talk about dad, that upsets mom.
Right.
And the reality is maybe the person should talk about them. I think, to keep their memory alive, to keep their emphasis of what they enjoyed about the holidays alive, to keep, their particular, brand of how to do Christmas, keeping that alive, keeping that tradition. If they, loved having, pecan pie, make a pecan pie, kind of thing. If they loved, going out and playing games with the kids, go out and play games with the kids. Whatever, because that's what grandpa would do, that's what dad would do, or that's what mom would do. So the point is that, I know this is a very difficult time for lots and lots of people, but it's okay to give yourself permission to reflect on that person and to talk about, and to maybe pull out the photo album or the videos or whatever it may be, and reflect a little bit on that person. Because grief is a very important part of working through our depression and working through the holidays. And one way of doing that is to talk and to reflect and to laugh about the fun times. So the reality is, beware of your grief. Also, I would say, beware of the narcissists in your life. Okay. We've talked about narcissists quite a bit on this program because, again, they are very real. And beware of how they may want to try to sabotage the holiday by trying to say things about all that they received and what you didn't receive. The gifts they got and the gifts you didn't get. We got the brand new car with the big bright red ribbon on the front yard. Did you? And so beware of that, and beware of just simply saying to the narcissist, something to the line, thank you for sharing that. Is there anything else? Let them know, hey, I'm sure that you are sincere in your particular way of thinking, and so
that's a good phrasing. I'm sure you're sincere in your particular
way of thinking. And so, and then move on. So, but the point is, don't let the narcissist ruin your holiday. Don't let, their particular grandiose ideas or beliefs or thoughts or ideas begin to ruin who you are, or ruin the holiday that you're wanting to enjoy. But depression is real. So again, if 64% of our people who struggle with some sort of mental illness, which is a lot of our population,
Right.
Again, struggle during the holiday or say the holidays make it worse, we need to be mindful of that. And I think in this question, is depression more prevalent? I think, first of all, we need to understand what depression is and what it's not. Depression is not just being sad for a couple of days. It's not also just being, a little grievous, because grief comes and goes. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But depression, again, impacts your life more than most people think. It impacts your relationships. Depression impacts your vocational performance. Depression also impacts your ability to do just simple things in life, such as having a good appetite or sleeping well or just your daily functions in life. And so there's 5 types of depression, and today on this program, I want us to look at 3 of them. But we'll talk about all 5, but we'll kind of really unpack the 3 that really find their way into the holidays.
Okay.
Number 1, the first type of depression that most of us are aware of is what's called major depressive disorder.
Okay.
And that's the one we'll talk about some more, and we've talked about it before, but we'll kind of review that. The second one is called persistent depressive disorder, which used to be called dysthymia. And we'll talk about that more because, again, that's a kind of a new diagnosis. And another diagnosis for depression that's fairly new is called disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. And this is basically a diagnosis primarily for children between the ages of 7 and 17. So that's, again, disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. And so these are the top 3 we'll be talking about. Of course, there's premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and then, of course, there's postpartum depression. So again, depression then is simply understood as having a depressed mood. Having a depressed mood, having a lack of interest in pleasure, having a lack of appetite, not being able to sleep well. And by the way, worldwide, 280 million people struggle with major depression disorder.
Wow, that is a lot of
That
people.
is a lot of people. And so in case you're wondering, hey, is that me? Here are some of the symptoms that you need to be mindful of. And if you have 5 of these 9 symptoms, it's possible that you may want to talk to your doctor or to your therapist about whether or not this does describe you. Again, depressed mood, which is basically feelings of hopelessness, feelings of helplessness. Number 2, having a lost interest in the pleasures of daily life. You don't enjoy football if you used to be a football fan. You don't enjoy, walking if you used to love to walk. You don't enjoy going to the gym if you used to love going to the gym. And the list could go on. But you lost your interest of what used to bring some pleasure into your life. Thirdly, again, as we said before, there's an appetite disturbance. You no longer enjoy eating. You no longer look forward to that meal. Also, sleep disturbance. You're tired all day, but you have trouble going to sleep at night. Also, psychomotor agitation, which is a fancy way of saying you're just restless all the time. You're just restless. Or you feel like you're carrying a 2-ton weight on your shoulders and you just have a hard time moving around. Also, when you have a sense of fatigue, no energy, no interest, no energy. I'm just, feeling tired all the time. And then there's another one, number 7, if you keep in count, feeling of worthlessness. I feel guilty. I feel worthless. I feel like my life doesn't matter. I feel like I don't matter to anybody. Also, a diminished ability to concentrate. I can't focus. I try to read a book and I'm on the same page for 2 hours, or whatever. Or I try to wrap presents and I've wrapped one present, in 30 minutes or whatever. I go to the store and I can't figure out what to buy. So there's just this diminished ability to concentrate. And then also the worst of all is the thoughts of death and suicide. Maybe I should just, leave this world, take my life, whatever. Now, again, many are maybe thinking, well, where's bipolar in there? Well, bipolar is a part of the major depressive disorder, if you will, but it just adds to it a manic state. So it's when you go from this mania, hyper, sensitive, hyper state of mind into this, major depressive disorder. So there's that real fluctuation between this hypomania and then all of a sudden this depressed state of mind.
Right, and it's not just emotional, and it is emotional, but it is, like you mentioned, there are a lot of physical things, and so that mania can be a physical, talks a lot, always going, nonstop, up for days,
buying 400 things, from Walmart in a matter of moments, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we talked about grief for a moment, and again, grief is different than major depressive disorder, because grief will lessen over time, but it will have, if you will, waves of grief on anniversaries, during holidays, etc. Whereas depression is pretty consistent. Okay. Yeah. So that's that one. Number two, the second type of depression that is very prevalent during this time of year is called persistent depressive disorder. Persistent depressive disorder, which is a fairly new diagnosis. And what this is a blend of dysthymia and chronic major depressive disorder. So they took those two diagnoses, if you will, they meaning the diagnostic manual, and they blended them into persistent depressive disorder. And what this means simply is this: you have a depressed mood for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And the primary symptoms, very similar to major depressive disorder, but you only need 2 of the 6 for a diagnosis. Again, appetite disturbance, sleep disturbance, low energy, low self-esteem, poor concentration, feelings of hopelessness, and just bottom line, if you had to just sum it up, you don't feel happy for 2 years.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. You just have a hard time feeling happy, being happy, looking happy. And again, don't put too much into what I'm about to say, but for some people, when you take pictures of them, okay, especially during the holidays or any time when they're in this state of this persistent depressive disorder, when you take pictures of them, you can almost see it in their face. Everybody around them is smiling. Everybody around them, at least has a smile or a grin on their face, or some, toothy, grin or whatever. But they're not. They have this very sullen, solemn, blank, flat affect look. And not just in one picture, but in most of their pictures.
Right.
Or you take a video and everyone is happy and jumping around, and they're just kind of sitting there looking around, Like, will this day ever end? Will we ever get past this? Can you kids please get out of my living room? Look, okay? And so that's something to be mindful of. That's that dysthymic disorder or dysthymic depression. Now, again, this happens to people as early as being in their late teens, and especially those who are in their early to even late 20s, early 30s.
So how are you going to tell this different and apart from just going through puberty and teenage years?
Yeah, because again, this lasts for 2 years.
Okay.
This is a 2-year, in puberty and other, types of grief, or maybe even other types of depression, there is a fluctuation, okay? Whereas here, it is a lasting for 2 years, and this person kind of stays in this state of unhappiness, if you just want to kind of sum it up, for a 2-year period.
Okay.
A third one, which is a fairly new diagnosis, is called disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. Fairly new diagnosis. And what this basically is, this is a diagnosis that is primarily for children between the ages of 7 and 17. And when I explain the symptoms, most parents who are listening go, okay, that explains some things. But basically what you're dealing with is a child between 7 and 17 who has a chronic persistent irritability. A chronic persistent irritability, meaning they will have these temper outbursts where, again, these temper outbursts are sometimes a verbal rage, just really off the charts, or this behavioral outburst where they have this severe tantrum, or they're throwing things, or they're breaking things. And again, this is inconsistent with their developmental level, meaning this, we can expect a 2-year-old to have a temper tantrum, as we would call them, but a 9-year-old doing the same thing, or an 11-year-old or a 14-year-old doing the same thing, that is a little unusual. Again, that is inconsistent with their level of development.
Yeah, their developmental phase.
Yeah. This often also happens at least three times a week.
Yeah.
This also, again, this mood also is a very irritable type of mood that, again, is between the outbursts. Okay, so the mood is still irritable between the tantrums, if you will.
Yes, this isn't just they had a really rough day, they had a bad day, they're having a hard time.
So yeah, this irritable mood goes. So they have these tantrums or these outbursts, and then in between them, there's this consistent irritable mood. Also, this lasts a year. Okay, so if this lasts for a year, and if it also goes on in a variety of settings, in other words, this child is this way at their home, but they're also this way at their school. They're also this way, maybe at soccer practice, or they're also maybe this way, at grandma's house, or their best friend's house, And so again, this is a diagnosis or a symptom, I should say, that's in a variety of settings. And the reason why I say this is because I meet so many parents who say, my kid is great at school,
right?
But when they come home, they go into this tantrum. Well, again, that's something, that's a different diagnosis and a different discussion for a different day.
There we go. We'll have to file that one away.
Yeah. But anyway, this person is consistent in a variety of settings: school, home, grandma's house, etc. The reason why this diagnosis came up is because bipolar disorder for children, we believe, was being overdiagnosed.
Okay.
And so because bipolar disorder was being overdiagnosed among children, this diagnosis, again, many believe, has a more accurate description of what is going on in a child's life. And so, again, we talked about premenstrual disorder and postpartum depression. We'll talk about that at a later program. But those are the top major three types of depression that you're going to have during the holidays. So the question is, what do we do? How do we, if we're finding ourselves with a major depressive disorder or a dysthymic disorder, if you will, of depression, what do we do? How do we handle what some would call the seasonal affective disorder or SAD? Where there's less sunlight and we're indoors more and we can't get out and enjoy a good walk because it's too cold outside, or it's too rainy, it's too damp, or whatever.
Everything's gray.
Everything's gray. So how do we manage? Number one, first of all, be real with yourself and be real with others. Meaning this: it's okay to say, you know what, I've got to set a budget for my gifts. I've got to set and create some boundaries with who I see or allow in my life. I cannot make every single event. I can't go to every office party. I can't go to every place where I'm invited. I can't go to every church cantata. I can't go to every event that I get an invitation to, and I'm not going to feel guilty about it. Mm-hmm. And so what you have to do is you have to say, this is what I can afford. These are the boundaries. These are the things that I really want to go to. And then you say, and I'm okay with that. Yeah. And you have to let everybody else know you need to be okay with that as well. Because if you try to do everything, then pretty soon you'll start resenting them and resenting the holiday and resenting the event, and you'll be there under protest, etc. Number two, very simple, very similar to that one, keep it simple. Keep your holiday simple. Just simply say, we're going to get one thing here and go to one event and go to one cantata or whatever, and this is the one we're going to go to, and this is what we're going to enjoy. But you just keep it simple.
So you're saying it's okay to downsize and say, hey, you know what? We're going to do a few things that we really enjoy instead of trying to do everything that everyone wants us to do.
And say no. So maybe you can't go to Nana's this year. Well, give her a call on Christmas morning, and you can FaceTime or whatever, and say, we'll maybe see you the day after Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, for many of us, Christmas is an entire season.
Yeah.
I meet people who celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve, okay, or even the 23rd, or even the day after Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
There was a day, real quickly, there was a day when you put up your tree on Christmas Eve, okay, and you didn't sing Christmas carols until maybe the week before Christmas.
Those days are gone.
Those days are gone. I mean, we started having, Christmas music, the day before Thanksgiving. So anyway, keep it simple, say no, realize you can't do everything, and realize you can't go everywhere, and be okay with that. Give yourself permission to say, you know what, we can't do that. Bless others. This is a great time, again, to bless others. We've talked about that before, but, go to the nursing home and bring some cookies, or go to the local food bank and donate, or help, at the local kitchen, or help around your church.
Yeah.
This is a time where, if you have a little extra and you want to buy something for someone that you don't even know, and bring that toy to the church and say to the pastor or the youth pastor, whomever, hey, give this to a family. Mm-hmm. In other words, be a blessing. But the main thing is plan ahead. Start thinking about, what do you want this Christmas season to look like for you? What do you think you can afford? Where is it that you want to go? But plan ahead, volunteer, and then take some time for yourself. It's okay, especially now that Christmas falls on a Monday and you have that week after Christmas, which is kind of a dead week for a lot of people and businesses and so forth. But take some time for yourself. Sleep late the day after Christmas. Enjoy that gift that you received, or just enjoy a day where you don't do anything that you don't want to do, but take some time for yourself. Also, too, create new traditions. One of the things that I'm doing, my wife and I are doing this Christmas season, is every night we are watching a Christmas movie.
Nice.
And that's just kind of a new tradition that we're doing. And yes, they are cheesy, and the plot seems to be very similar. Okay?
No way.
Oh yeah, the plot seems very similar. There's an evil fiance, okay, and there is a guy that meets the girl, and she doesn't like him at first, but then she falls in love with him, and then she discovers he's really a good person, and they fall in love, and she dumps the fiance. Now, for some reason, that's the plot of every one of these movies, but okay. But anyway, create some new traditions, whatever that new tradition may be, as far as decorating, as far as the food, as far as the gifts. Create some games. I know we're creating, my oldest daughter, Jamie, created last year for us what she called the Family Jeopardy game.
Okay.
Where we took some stories from yesteryear, and we, one category would be, old boyfriends. Or one category would be, things that grandma and grandpa did as teenagers, or whatever, And so the thing is that we took some of these stories and we created a Family Jeopardy, which is now a new tradition for us. But the main thing is, have some reasonable goals. Have some reasonable ideas as far as what you want this holiday season to look like. Remember, you really are in control if you allow yourself to be. You're in control over you. You're in control over what you say, what you do. Don't worry about what you don't have control over. But most importantly, and we know this, and I think our listening audience will appreciate this, always focus on the Savior. The reality is the Christmas season is focusing on the Savior, focusing on, what God has done for us by sending His only begotten Son to Bethlehem's manger, to die on a cross, to rise from the grave, to give eternal life, and focus on the Savior and what that means and what that represents, and just be that light and be that salt. Because people, even though there's going to be pushback from various groups during the Christmas season, but people are more open to hearing about Jesus during the Christmas season than really any other time of year.
Yeah.
And this is a great time to plant those seeds and to be that witness and to share the gospel and to give away Bibles and to bring Bibles to, fire stations or nursing homes or police stations or wherever, you may land, into the Lions Club or wherever, and hand out Bibles and just let people know that, again, Jesus is the reason for the season. And in doing so, you have that mission, you have that message, you have that ministry that makes this time of year great, unique, really exciting and full of joy.
Jesus is indeed the reason for the season, and hopefully you'll be encouraged by the advice that you've heard today. Hopefully you'll be aware of some of the struggles that you may have or your family may have, and ultimately we hope that because of the Family Answer Man, that you will be able to experience and have happier, healthier families.